Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're setting out on a bit of a quest. We're asking this really fundamental question: what if the big truths about, success, influence, making an impact, what if they aren't hiding in some far-off place or buried in complex
Yeah,
theories?
what if they're actually right here,
Yeah,
right into our noses?
exactly. Waiting to be noticed. We're talking about those kinds of insights that, well, they connect these grand statements from history's biggest figures with just simple, everyday observations we might usually ignore.
It is fascinating, isn't it? This idea that you have all these different voices, ancient philosophers mapping out persuasion, modern thinkers digging into the mind, brave activists fighting for justice,
Yeah.
and somehow they often land on just a handful of, core truths about what humans are capable of.
Mhm.
It's compelling how these ideas just keep echoing across time. The world changes, obviously, but the basic human challenges, the opportunities, maybe they don't change quite as much.
Absolutely. So, our mission today is to pull together a whole range of sources. We've got foundational texts on rhetoric, some really powerful personal development manifestos, historical speeches that, moved
And
nations.
biographical insights too, right? Into
Mhm.
people who really dared to lead.
Right. We want to uncover those deep connections between, let's say, our inner world, our mindset, our beliefs, and our outer interactions, how we communicate, how we influence others.
And ultimately, our ability to actually make a difference, to drive real change.
Yeah. So, if we bring this home for you, the listener, the idea is to find insights that aren't just, academic facts.
hmm
These are meant to be shortcuts, ways to get truly well informed, to maybe help you navigate your own challenges, spot those opportunities you might be missing.
And act with maybe a bit more purpose
Mm,
in your work, in your life.
precisely. We're really aiming for those aha moments, those
Mhm.
flashes of understanding that can shift how you see your own potential.
Okay, sounds like a plan.
Great. So let's dive in. Let's start with this idea that fundamentally changes how we look for opportunity.
The radical, but maybe simple idea that the best stuff is often right where we are. So in this first section, the power of perspective, cultivating opportunity where you are, we're really digging into this core concept. It challenges that very human tendency to look far away for opportunities.
Right, the idea that the grass is always greener somewhere else.
Exactly, and we end up overlooking the rich soil, the untapped potential right where we're standing. It's about realizing those acres of diamonds might literally be under our feet.
That's a perfect way to frame it. And it brings up a key question. Why do we overlook what's right in front of us so often?
hmm
Russell Conwell's famous lecture, Acres of Diamonds, gives us a pretty compelling answer. And he honed this over thousands, literally thousands of deliveries. His method was actually quite brilliant.
How so?
Well, he'd go into a town, right? And
Yeah.
he'd talk to everyone, the postmaster, the barber, the school principal, local ministers. He'd visit factories, stores. So really getting the local feel.
Totally. He wanted to understand the local situation, what opportunities people might have missed right there. And then he'd stand up and tell the residents they had acres of diamonds right where they lived.
Wow.
But not just as a vague idea. He'd use specific examples he'd just learned about their town, their community.
That makes it incredibly powerful, doesn't it? Taking this universal truth and making it deeply personal, immediate. Conwell actually kicks off his lecture with this foundational story. It kind of encapsulates the whole idea.
The Ali Hafed story.
Yeah, the sad tale of this old guide, Ali Hafed, living in ancient Persia. He had this amazing farm orchards, fields, gardens, everything, but he wasn't content.
He heard about diamonds.
Exactly. He heard stories about diamonds, how valuable they were, and he just got obsessed with finding them. So what does he do? He sells his farm, leaves his family, and spends years wandering the world searching for diamond mines.
And the outcome.
He dies penniless, disillusioned, completely broken.
And the tragic irony, which is really the heart of Conwell's point.
Yeah.
The man who bought Ali Hafed's farm, he's watering his camel one day in this stream that runs right through the property. And he sees something glinting in the sand.
A strange black stone.
A strange black stone, yeah.
Yeah.
He picks it up, and it's got this internal fire. It was a diamond,
Unbelievable.
and not just one. That stream, that farm, the very land Ali Hafed sold off in his desperate global search. It turned out to be the legendary Golconda diamond mine, one of the richest in history.
So the diamonds he searched the world for.
Were literally on his own property all along, just waiting.
That story, it just sends a chill down your spine with the irony. And I think it hits home because we all kind of recognize that tendency in ourselves, don't we?
We do. That pull towards the distant and unknown.
And it's not just about literal diamonds, of course. Conwell tells another story, maybe even more striking. It involves a professor of mineralogy, a guy highly educated in this exact subject.
Okay, so he should know, right?
Yeah, you'd think. He sells his family homestead in Massachusetts for, a pretty modest sum. What he doesn't realize is that embedded in his own stone wall, right by the gate, is a block of native silver, 8 inches square.
No way.
Yes, he'd lived there, grown up there. Conwell even says he'd rubbed the stone with his sleeve until it reflected his countenance. He literally sat on this chunk of silver while making the deal to sell the place.
Oh, the irony is almost painful. How much was it worth?
Apparently something like $100,000 back then. Right at his fingertips, completely missed.
It's almost funny, isn't it? The expert, blind to the obvious, right in front of him. So Conwell's main point, the takeaway he adapted for every audience, it wasn't just about looking for, physical wealth.
No, not just that. It was about recognizing that, and I'm quoting him here, every man has the opportunity to make more of himself than he does in his own environment, with his own skill, with his own energy, and with his own friends.
That's powerful.
It really is. It's kind of an indictment of how we chase after this perceived distant glamour, and it blinds us to the huge value, whether it's money or opportunity or even, chances for social progress that's sitting right there, totally accessible.
That's a crucial point. It actually reminds me a bit of Booker T. Washington.
Oh, interesting connection. How so?
In his Atlanta Compromise speech, he used a similar metaphor, didn't he?
Yeah.
Cast down your bucket where you are.
Right. He was urging the white community to invest in the black citizens they already knew rather than looking elsewhere for labor.
Exactly. And to his own community, he said the same thing. Cast down your bucket where you are, meaning look for opportunities for self-improvement, for economic growth right there within your current situation.
It's the same core message as Conwell, really, just applied to a very specific, very urgent social and economic reality. It shows how universal this principle is.
And this naturally leads us to the mindset needed for success, for actually seeing those diamonds, right? Belief and purpose. If the opportunity is right here, we need the right internal compass to even notice it.
Okay, so how do we cultivate that?
Well, Earl Nightingale, in The Strangest Secret, gives us a really precise, quite profound definition of success. He says, the only man who succeeds is the man who is progressively realizing a worthy ideal.
Progressively realizing. So it's not about just hitting one goal and being done.
Exactly. It's not a single finish line you cross. It's the continuous journey, the consistent movement towards a chosen, meaningful vision. It's about the direction and the progress.
That makes sense. And Nightingale points out this isn't exactly a new idea, right? It's like a timeless consensus among, really great thinkers.
He really hammers this home. He reminds us, Marcus Aurelius believed, a man's life is what his thoughts make of it. Just stop and think about that for a second.
Our whole reality is shaped by our inner narrative. Wow.
Yeah. And Disraeli was convinced nothing can resist a will that will stake even existence for its fulfillment. That's an incredible level of commitment he's talking about.
That's intense.
It is. Emerson declared, a man is what he thinks about all day long. And William James, the great psychologist and philosopher, famously said, human beings can alter their lives by altering their attitudes of mind.
Altering attitudes, changing lives.
And James added, if you only care enough for result, you will almost certainly ascertain it.
So what pulls all these different voices together? What's the common thread?
It's this clear truth. Our thoughts aren't just random, fleeting things. They are, in a way, the blueprints for our lives. Nightingale takes this philosophical idea and makes it super practical.
How does he do that?
He uses the analogy of a ship leaving a harbor. Imagine a ship with a complete mapped-out voyage. It knows exactly where it's going. Nightingale says that ship will almost certainly reach its destination, right? Even if it hits storms or has to detour.
Okay, makes sense. Clear destination, clear path.
But now imagine a ship that leaves a harbor with no goal, no destination. It just drifts. It's totally at the mercy of the winds and currents. It'll likely end up shipwrecked or just lost.
Aimless.
Exactly. And here's the kicker. Nightingale points out that only about 1 in 20 people, 5%, have clear, definite goals they're working towards.
Only 5%. That seems low.
It does. But what it suggests is that for those who do have clear goals, there's actually surprisingly little real competition. The main battle isn't against other people. It's internal. It's against our own lack of clarity, our own drifting.
And he doesn't just leave us hanging with the concept, right? He gives us something concrete to do.
Right, the 30-day test. It's a practical way to put this principle into action. For 30 days, you have to consistently focus on one positive, worthwhile goal.
Okay, focus.
What else? It means consciously pushing out any fearful or negative thoughts and replacing them with a really vivid mental picture of your goal already achieved. Feel it, see it,
So, actively managing your thoughts.
actively, and committing to do more than you have to do. Go the extra mile in your work, in your efforts towards that goal. And then there's the crucial part, trusting the how you'll achieve it to a power greater than yourself.
What does that mean exactly?
The idea is, once you clearly define the destination and hold it firmly in your mind with positive expectation, how the means, the paths, the resources will start to show up. Your consistent, directed thought kind of opens doors you couldn't see before.
Letting the process unfold once the direction is set.
Pretty much. It really underscores that our internal state, our mindset, is the primary engine driving our external reality.
Which leads us nicely into someone like Tony Robbins, who gives us some powerful tools for, well, actively managing that internal state.
Definitely. Robbins talks about how our beliefs act like filters for our perceptions. They literally filter how we see the world. And more than that, they act as direct commands to our nervous system.
Like the operating system for our mind.
That's a great way to put it. And think about it. Limiting beliefs can totally sabotage us. They create barriers where maybe none actually exist. But empowering beliefs, they can propel us forward, help us spot opportunities, see possibilities.
And here's where it gets really practical for anyone listening. Robbins talks about reframing, right? How we can actively change the emotional punch of our experiences.
Exactly. Take a negative memory, something that still holds some power over you. Robbins suggests you can manipulate its submodalities.
Submodalities, like the details of how we represent it in our minds.
Right. Is the image big or small? Bright or dim? Close or far away? Is there sound? By consciously changing those elements, like making a negative image smaller, dimmer, pushing it further away, you can dramatically lessen its emotional grip.
So you're not denying it happened, but you're changing your internal relationship to it.
Precisely. And conversely, for positive memories, you can amplify them. Make the image brighter, closer, larger, turn up the positive sounds and feelings associated with it. You enhance the resourcefulness of that positive state.
It's like being the director of your own internal movie theater.
In a way, yes. It's a conscious, almost neuro-linguistic approach to managing your inner world. It puts you in the driver's seat of your emotions instead of just being tossed around by them.
And Robbins makes this really bold claim.
Yeah, that almost every experience can be reframed into something positive.
Yeah.
Which sounds maybe a bit extreme at first, but it highlights the incredible flexibility we have in how we choose to interpret and respond to things.
It really underscores our capacity to choose our perspective.
Absolutely. And connecting this back to Conwell, just like his characters, finding diamonds they'd overlooked, mastering our inner experience, reframing things, having that clear purpose Nightingale talks about. It directly impacts our ability to even see and then seize opportunities that might have always been there.
But were maybe hidden by our negative filters or amplified by a clear, positive focus?
Exactly. It all starts with that internal landscape.
This foundational idea that our mindset is key, it really empowers us, doesn't it? It suggests we can actively shape our emotional and psychological world.
It does. It's about cultivating that inner soil, making it fertile ground, so those diamonds of opportunity, whether they're literal or metaphorical, can actually be seen and then, gathered.
Okay, so moving on to our second section, mastering the art of influence, communication as a catalyst for change. Now we're looking at how we interact outwards, how the way we express ourselves, the words we choose, how we connect, how that can transform things.
Right, from individual conversations right up to influencing the wider world. And the core concept here really goes back centuries. We're talking about the enduring principles of persuasion.
And for that, you really have to start with the ancient Greeks and Romans. Right?
Absolutely. You have to look at Aristotle's rhetoric. It's foundational. He defines rhetoric fundamentally as being for the sake of a judgment.
For the sake of a judgment. So it's not just talking pretty.
Not at all. It's about guiding an audience towards a specific conclusion, helping them make a decision. He gets really detailed about the tools, like using enthememes.
Enthememes. Remind me again what those are.
Think of them as rhetorical syllogisms, like logical arguments, but where one part of the argument is deliberately left unstated.
Okay. Why leave it unstated?
Because the audience has to supply that missing piece themselves. For example, if I say, Socrates is human, therefore Socrates is mortal, the unstated premise is, all humans are mortal. Your mind just fills that in automatically.
Ah, I see. So it makes the argument feel stronger because I participated in completing it.
Exactly. It engages the audience more deeply. Aristotle also talks about using examples to confirm conclusions. And what's really striking is his deep dive into human emotion.
Yeah, you mentioned that earlier.
He insists that a speaker must understand the audience's emotions, things like fear, which interestingly he says translates into pity when we see that same potential misfortune happening to others, or righteous indignation, that feeling we get when we see someone prospering who doesn't deserve it.
He's basically giving speakers an emotional roadmap to their audience.
Pretty much. A blueprint for tapping into or even shaping how the audience feels. He also discusses language and style, noting that metaphor is the most powerful element because it can be clear, pleasant, and also bring in something unfamiliar or surprising. But he warns they have to be fitting metaphors.
Can't just throw any metaphor in there.
Right. And he's very clear rhetoric is ultimately directed at opinion. He acknowledges its power in shaping how people perceive reality.
So Aristotle sees it as a practical tool, but Plato had a different take, didn't he? Or at least it evolved.
Yes, Plato's view is more complex. And his earlier dialogue, Gorgias, Socrates, is pretty critical. He calls rhetoric a mere knack, not a genuine art, especially if it's used without real knowledge. He argues it's mainly good for convincing an ignorant person
Yeah.
before an equally ignorant audience.
Ouch. So potentially manipulative, a trick.
That's the implication in Gorgias. It's like flattery, a shadow of true justice or knowledge. But then, in his later work, Phaedrus, Plato's view seems to broaden quite a bit. Here, rhetoric becomes about the way both gods and men use words. It covers poetry, prose, all sorts of discourse. And in Phaedrus, he suggests that good rhetoric actually is connected to knowing the truth, though skill is still vital for persuasion.
So it's not just about skill, but about skill guided by truth.
Exactly. And he introduces this really powerful concept, psychagogia.
Psychagogia sounds intense. What does it mean?
It translates roughly as the leading of the soul. This isn't just about convincing someone of a fact, like in a debate. It's about elevating their thinking, guiding their spirit towards a higher truth or a deeper understanding.
Wow. So like a truly inspiring speech that doesn't just change your opinion, but actually changes you somehow. Makes you want to act differently.
That's a great way to think about it. It moves beyond simple persuasion into something more like transformation, guiding the soul.
That ethical tension rhetoric as a trick versus rhetoric as leading the soul, that feels like a debate that's still relevant today.
Absolutely. And later Roman thinkers like Cicero and Quintilian built on this. They really emphasized that the ideal orator wasn't just skilled, but also a good man. Someone with broad knowledge, human nature, morals, history, law,
Knowing their stuff.
doing their stuff and knowing their audience. Cicero stressed the need to sagaciously investigate what his fellow citizens think, feel, opine, expect. And Quintilian insisted on needing a copious supply of words, logical structure, and constant practice so the right words come spontaneously.
Practice makes perfect, even in rhetoric.
And Quintilian also talked about tailoring style. You wouldn't use super fancy language in an introduction, maybe, but sometimes mean or harsh words are necessary for impact, like when Cicero was attacking Piso. The key insight: the occasion chosen for saying anything is at least as important a consideration as what is actually said. Context is everything.
Context is crucial.
Everything.
Okay, so from these ancient foundations, these building blocks of persuasion and the ethics around it, let's jump forward. How do these ideas translate into more modern strategies for connection and influence?
Well, you can't talk about modern influence without mentioning Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's just foundational.
Classic for a reason.
Definitely. He boils down human connection into these really practical, actionable techniques. Simple things like remembering and using people's names. He calls it essential, not just something for kings. He quotes Emerson saying, "Good manners are made up of petty sacrifices," pointing out the real effort involved in genuinely connecting.
Those small efforts make a big difference. What about listening? Carnegie talks a lot about that too, right?
Hugely important. He gives this really touching example of a Mrs. Wilson and her daughter, Lori. Mrs. Wilson realized she was always just giving orders, directing, never really listening to Lori's thoughts, feelings, ideas.
I think a lot of parents might recognize that pattern.
Probably. But once Mrs. Wilson made a conscious effort to truly hear her daughter, without interrupting or judging, their whole relationship changed. She went from being the boss to being a confidant. It built trust.
That's powerful. And he had that example about Rockefeller too.
Right, with the striking miners. Instead of arguing or taking sides, Rockefeller went and sought common ground. He listened, showed respect, focused on shared interests, and apparently turned enemies into allies. It's all about empathy, seeking understanding first, not just trying to win the argument.
So whether it's ancient rhetoric or Dale Carnegie, it seems clear that effective communication, both with others and maybe with ourselves, really boosts the quality of life.
No doubt. And words. Rudyard Kipling nailed it when he called them the most powerful drug used by mankind.
Wow, that's a strong statement.
It is, but think about it. Words can build bridges or burn them down. They can inspire incredible action or foster deadly indifference.
Which brings us to that crucial ethical dimension, right? Using communication not just for personal gain, but maybe for justice.
Exactly. And here, Elie Wiesel's voice is incredibly powerful. The Holocaust survivor, Nobel laureate. His assertion is stark. Indifference now is equal to evil.
Equal to evil, not just apathy, but active harm in a way.
That's how he frames it. He argues that indifference, not ignorance, not atheism, not immorality, is the real opposite of culture, faith, morality. He acknowledges we might accept indifference sometimes because the weight of all the world's suffering feels too much to bear.
But in doing so, we become complicit.
That's his warning. We allow the bad things to happen through our inaction, our silence.
And his own life rule, his precept.
It's so direct, so challenging. If somebody needs me, I must be there. It puts the moral responsibility squarely on us. Who is our neighbor? Who needs us? And will we show up or will we choose that comfortable numbness of indifference? It's really an indictment of looking away.
A powerful call to presence and action.
And then you have the fiery oratory of someone like Sojourner Truth. Think about her Ain't I a Woman speech.
Just electrifying, even reading it today.
Totally. Her arguments were so direct, so personal, challenging these deep-seated prejudices with just undeniable moral force. She wasn't asking for rights from the audience. She was demanding what belonged to women. Give them what belongs to them, they ask it kindly too.
And she didn't shy away from criticizing powerful institutions either.
Not at all. She pointed out that the church wrongs woman as much as the state, showing this sharp critical thinking applied across the board. Her power wasn't just in the words, but in how she embodied the truth of her own lived experience. It made her arguments almost impossible to refute with just abstract theory.
So what ties all this together? Aristotle, Carnegie, Wiesel, truth.
I think it shows how these principles bridge the gap between just knowing things and actually applying them. Communication, when it's wielded skillfully and ethically, understanding emotions, listening deeply, taking a moral stand, it has the power to transform everything.
From our one-on-one interactions.
Right up to moving whole groups of people toward shared goals, whether that's building better relationships at work or challenging huge systemic injustices. It's that journey from our internal thoughts out into the public square, all aimed at making a meaningful difference.
Okay, so this brings us to our third and final section. The imperative of action. Leaders and the pursuit of justice. This is where it all comes together, right? Where mindset and communication actually turn into tangible change.
Exactly. Where rhetoric becomes reality through the decision to act. The core idea here is about daring to lead, daring to challenge injustice, pushing past what's comfortable or accepted to demand something better.
And we see this call to courage, this sense of responsibility echoing through history.
Absolutely. You think about Patrick Henry, give me liberty or give me death. Or Thomas Paine in the American Crisis. Remember that opening line? These are the times that try men's souls.
Chilling. Still gives you goosebumps.
Right. And these weren't just clever phrases. This was rhetoric designed to galvanize a nation that was just forming, to push people to action for freedom when things looked incredibly bleak, to inspire them to keep going against huge odds.
And much later, you hear a similar kind of weight in John F. Kennedy's inaugural address. That iconic line.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Yeah. It was a call for everyone to step up, demanding high standards of strength and sacrifice. It challenged citizens to be active participants, not just passive recipients. These leaders knew words were powerful, but only if they led to doing something.
And Theodore Roosevelt, he didn't just talk about action, he embodied it.
Definitely. He famously believed the man who does nothing is nothing. His whole approach seemed to be about active engagement.
For sure. And his presidency showed he was willing to act, sometimes even when the rules weren't crystal clear. That 1902 coal strike is a prime example.
Right. Tell us about that again.
Well, constitutionally, he arguably had no power to intervene, but he saw a massive crisis looming. Winter was coming, there was no coal, which meant acute misery and loss of life for the poor was a real possibility. Plus, potential social chaos.
So what did he do?
He didn't wait for permission or a perfectly clear legal path. He stepped in. He brokered a deal. He prioritized human welfare and the stability of the country over sticking strictly to procedural lines. He even felt he was saving the wealthy mine owners from the consequences of their own stubbornness.
That's bold leadership, going beyond the letter of the law to uphold its spirit in a way,
Mm.
protecting people, keeping society functioning.
Exactly. And his vision went further. His whole new nationalism platform, advocating for equality of opportunity for all men and all women. That wasn't just economic talk.
No, it felt more
It
fundamental.
was about ensuring every single person had a fair shot to show the stuff there is in him, as he put it, to reach their potential, regardless of their background. That active drive for a more just, more equitable society really defined his leadership.
But taking action like that, challenging the status quo,
Yeah.
it takes real grit. It's not easy.
Not at all.
Mhm.
And Kurt Vonnegut captures that struggle so well and so realistically. He said, hope isn't a choice, it's a moral obligation, it's a human obligation, it's an obligation to the cells in your body. Hope grapples endlessly with despair.
Wow. Hope grapples endlessly with despair. That's not naive optimism.
Not even close. It's a deep recognition that even when things look hopeless, even with that constant pull towards cynicism, committing to hope and therefore committing to action is like a fundamental human duty. It's what keeps the fight for justice going.
That really resonates. Now, thinking about specific champions of equality, we mentioned Sojourner Truth earlier. Her actions were just as powerful as her words, weren't they?
Immensely so. Her unique position, having been enslaved and then freed, gave her this incredible platform to dismantle harmful stereotypes, like that old threadbare lie, as Ida B. Wells later called it, about black men attacking white women, a lie used to justify terrible violence.
And Wells quoting Truth, making this incredibly powerful point.
Yes, it's unforgettable. Only the black woman can say, when and where I enter, in the quiet, undisputed dignity of my womanhood, without violence and without suing or special patronage, then and there the whole Negro race enters with me.
That's profound. It's not just about her own rights.
No, it's about interconnectedness. She's saying the liberation of black women is tied directly to the liberation of the entire race. It's an early articulation of intersectionality, recognizing the unique weight she carried and the profound impact her advancement represented for everyone.
Amazing clarity. And then you have someone like Elizabeth Cady Stanton at Seneca Falls. Her declaration of sentiments wasn't just a general complaint, it was specific.
Incredibly specific.
Yeah.
She laid out the grievances point by point, transforming what might have been seen as individual frustrations into a systemic critique, a public call for justice.
What were some of those points again?
Denial of proper education, being forced into subordinate roles in church and state, the double standard in moral codes that excused men but condemned women, and how society deliberately undermined women's confidence and self-respect, pushing them towards a dependent and abject life.
So their demand was?
Immediate admission to all the rights and privileges which belonged to them as citizens. Full stop. And they knew what they were up against. They stated up front they expected misconception, misrepresentation, and ridicule for their work.
That takes immense courage and resolve, knowing you're challenging everything and will face backlash, but doing it anyway.
Absolutely. And jumping to a more modern era, you see that same kind of lifelong dedication in someone like Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
RBG, yeah. Her whole career seemed rooted in this deep commitment.
An unswerving commitment to individual rights and the presumption of innocence, as it's been described. President Clinton called her the Thurgood Marshall of the women's movement, highlighting how she painstakingly built the legal arguments that eventually changed the landscape through Supreme Court decisions.
And Clinton also noted she had this understanding of the real people affected, right? Not just abstract legal theory.
Yes, that she had both the intellectual capacity and an instinctive and immediate understanding of the human implications of the decisions being made. She saw the lives behind the legal cases.
And her dissents, they became legendary too. They weren't just disagreements, they were powerful statements.
Incredibly powerful, refusing to let injustice slide, even when she was in the minority. Remember when she called the idea that the U.S. had suddenly become race neutral, like being an ostrich with its head stuck in the sand?
Yeah, unwilling to see the rank discrimination that was still clearly visible.
Exactly. She understood that making progress means facing uncomfortable truths, speaking truth to power again and again. Her actions, through legal argument, literally carved out new paths.
So as we think about this need for action, we also have to face the things that get in the way, the obstacles.
Definitely. And Elie Wiesel's message comes back again, doesn't it? That indifference now is equal to evil. It's such a stark warning against complacency, against looking away. It's not enough just to know what's wrong. We have to actively resist the urge to be silent or inactive. Indifference isn't neutral. It enables harm.
It's a heavy responsibility.
It is. And maybe Viktor Frankl offers a related insight here, finding meaning not just in achievements, but in the attitude that is taken facing the various challenges and opportunities of life. It connects back to that internal mindset piece.
And Vonnegut, ever the realist, throws in a caution about power itself, doesn't he?
Oh yeah, power corrupts us, and absolute power corrupts us absolutely. Human beings are chimpanzees who get crazy drunk on power. It's a reminder that the struggle isn't just against external forces, but sometimes against our own human tendencies.
And his line about the good old days?
There have never been any good old days. There have just been days. It grounds us, right? It reminds us that struggle is constant. Progress isn't automatic. It's earned, fought for in every generation. It's not about nostalgia. It's about the work needed now.
So pulling this all together, what's the takeaway? We have these figures from completely different times, facing different challenges.
But they all show this incredible courage to act, the resilience to keep going, the moral clarity to fight for something better.
And often it seems their journey started right where they were, recognizing those diamonds, the opportunities, their own convictions.
Combined with the ability to communicate effectively, to connect with others.
And then crucially, taking that decisive, often difficult step into action. They show us that our power to make a difference is tangled up with our inner vision and our outer voice. We've covered, wow, an incredible amount of ground today on the deep dive. We've pulled together these three really powerful connected themes.
Yeah, first, that profound power of our internal mindset, how we frame things, finding opportunity right where we are.
Then the critical role of communication, effective, ethical persuasion as a catalyst for change.
And finally, that absolute imperative of courageous action, stepping up for justice and progress.
And the key thing is these aren't separate boxes, are they?
Not at all. They're deeply interwoven. They feed into each other. Your ability to shape your world, it really starts inside you, flows through how you connect with others, and then shows up in the actions you take. It's like a continuous loop, really. Dynamic.
That's right. We've seen that, success isn't just about the external achievements. It's about how we frame our world internally, how we genuinely connect with people, and whether we actually dare to act on what we believe is right, even when it's hard or unpopular. So as you, our listener, reflect on your own acres of diamonds, those opportunities, those skills you have, the people around you, maybe things you've overlooked, here's something to chew on. If Seneca was right that true philosophy molds and constructs the soul, and Conwell observed that a man dies, but his good work lives, what is the singular good work that's waiting for your unique insight, your unique courage, right where you are right now? What could become your enduring legacy? What act, maybe even a small one, are you uniquely positioned to take today?
That's a powerful question to sit with. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We really hope this has given you plenty to think about.
Yeah, and maybe a fresh perspective, a new lens to look at your world and your own truly immense potential.
Until next time.
We'll see you next time.